don't, am I just making a test here? Yes, I think we are live. We are live. Perfect. Good. So, good evening, everyone, or day, depending on which part of the world you're living in right now. But yeah, for us, we're situated in Europe. Actually, Maciej is very close to me in Luxembourg. So, good evening, or good afternoon, or good night for some of you, to this little Q&A and live session with Maciej Janik. I still hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So a little bit, I'm just going to introduce myself also real quick. So I am Raphael. I'm the creative director for Game Brewer. So obviously I've been working very closely with Maciej on Stroganov and all the other projects that we're working on, which is really, really great. And so, yeah, we decided it would be really interesting for the backers and other people to talk a little bit about, how, about your work, obviously, on the game and how that came about and how, we go from a basic idea, we go from a prototype to a finished result. And especially a game like this, which is obviously, takes part of really interesting bits and pieces of history and a part of the world that is not, I guess, very known. Not very many people travel, I guess, to Siberia on a weekly basis. But yeah, so let's dive into it. By the way, if you guys have questions, because we did ask the backers to ask questions if they wanted to ask something specific, we got in a few and we'll go through most of them. But if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask them here on Twitch. We can look here at the chat, and we can dive into that more at the end of the interview. But I'm just going to start with the questions we had prepared already. So here we go. So Maciej, basically, let's start with a more very general question, which is how you got into illustration in general.
Yeah, well, this was sort of mashup of many things that happened in my life, one of which was my studies in the field of architecture.
Okay.
The other thing was my passion for drawing and for board games.
Okay,
and,
yeah.
It may have not happened if I was not born in Gliwice, which is a town in Silesia, in the southern part of Poland.
Yeah.
And I happened to meet Ignacy Trzewiczek from Portal.
Yeah.
At my sort of cultural center there, and he sort of introduced me to the industry,
yes,
so to speak.
Okay, that's very, very cool. And so, when did you design then your first published game? And I mean, I guess you already answered. I was going to ask, like, how did that come about? But you already answered that question.
Yeah.
But what was the first one?
I didn't exactly design it wholly. I only illustrated some parts of it.
Yes.
But it was an expansion, a small expansion for a Cry Havoc game.
Yeah.
It happened at the end of 2017.
Okay, yeah. So you haven't really been in quote unquote the business for that long then. It's pretty fresh off the bat, yeah. Okay, very cool. So yeah, I mean, because I found you actually through ArtStation and some other channels. But yeah, we decided to work together on Stroganov. So let's focus obviously on that project. How did you actually approach Stroganov, and how much research did you actually have to do when you were working on the project?
Well, quite a lot. I did some reading about the subject. I read some parts of several books. The most important, I think, are the environmental history of early modern world.
Yeah.
And also a history of peoples of Siberia,
yeah,
which sort of illustrated for me what happened there historically.
Mm-hmm.
There were more, of course, and of course many websites talking about folklore, especially the Cossacks folklore, which I didn't find too many books about. There probably are, don't get me wrong.
No,
I just didn't find them. The other part of the research was going on a Google Map tour through Siberia to look at landscapes and see what I can illustrate and what is really there. And it was quite an amazing experience because I didn't know that Siberia is so beautiful. And I only knew some like very vague sentences and vague ideas about this land, but nothing concrete. And this tour via Google Images and other really brought this imagery into form. Other than that, I looked through some historical paintings of the Cossacks and of the Russians and also of the land of Siberia. Some of the more influential for me were paintings by Józef Brandt, who was a Polish painter. And also in terms of like style, I would say that Richard Schmidt is very influential for me, painter of landscapes. He's an American, I believe, painter. So that was like a research, a prep work before I started to design anything. And also I created several mood boards, one for characters, one for each type of landscape, one for general theme. So yeah, that was basically my prep work before I started the project.
Really digging into it. Okay, very cool. We actually got in a question from a backer that is a little bit related to that. It was a backer called Carlita Way who asked, well, games, should tell stories. And as humans, we love myths. It's true. Storytelling is a big part of what you try and achieve also in board gaming to some extent, obviously some more than others. But he asked, what is the real story of Stroganov that, we're trying to tell here, he asks.
From my perspective, the main story that we are telling, which is not exactly the same as the main or the real story of that period or what happened, is the story of Cossacks venturing into a very distant land for them. Land inhabited both by people and animals, which is an amazing story. I bet it's also a gruesome one in many parts, but nevertheless amazing story of probably some bravery and some other darker moments. And I tried to look at Siberia through the lenses of those Cossacks that went there. This is why I decided to include the geometric patterns that are so closely tied to the Cossacks or the Cossack culture. And this is why I also tried to put those characters whenever I could. Exactly. I also have to say that I made them look a bit more fancy, I think, than they really were. But I know that in the minds of the large community, especially internationally, there are several things that are very recognizable as Cossack attributes. One of which is this hairstyle, the bald head with the one string of hairs.
That ties back. That's very true. Well, it was nice to see also how you added quite a bit of color that way, because obviously, like you say, Siberia is incredibly vast. It's a huge part of Russia. But obviously, we always tend to think that, it's very barren and it's not necessarily very colorful. It's not entirely true, of course, but obviously this game is very much about exploration, and I personally really liked how, a lot of color came into, your illustrations on the cover and on different parts and bits and pieces. But let's talk actually a little bit about your designing process. Like, how do you start indeed on a project like that, or are there certain things that you particularly use when you start illustrating a game like this?
funny enough for me, this design process was very influenced by my architectural background.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I looked at the game through this lens of designer, so to speak. And one of the I looked at constraints, what I cannot change,
yes.
what is determined, so to speak. And in Stroganov, I found that, for example, we cannot have text because it has to be language independent. And also we have to use furs or tiles that are really small, but also have an indication of a value.
Yeah, that's true.
And this is the element that cannot be changed. It's sort of the beginning of a certain path of design.
Yeah.
So this was one of the first tasks to be done to sort of identify the space for the design I could implement.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And the other was actually playing a prototype. This was also really important, not on the one part to understand the game and to really know the rules, but mainly to observe other players. What are they looking for?
Yeah.
What is missing? What needs to be really fleshed out and separate, and where certain information have to be clustered together, so that you have a full picture every time you're looking at the board. So these were two fundamentals, and other than that, I started developing a sort of thematic introduction to put this idea in my head, like, what am I looking at when I'm looking at a board?
Yes.
What is it? Is it a map? Is it a selection of paintings? Is it some sort of simulated view from above? There are different approaches for different types of games, and with the vastness of Siberia as it is, we sort of together decided that it would be the best to segregate it into the regions, and fill those regions with shots of landscapes, so that you get the idea that there is more. There is always more that you are not seeing, but there is an indication that there is a lot of space, even if the board itself is not that huge.
Well, it's fairly big, but I know what you mean.
But, not as big as it could get with Siberia. That's what I'm trying to say. And the very important part of the design was a moment when we decided on or settled on the pattern.
Yes, exactly.
To cover everything. And this was also this thematic setting. So we are embracing the idea that this is a Cossack story. So we are using a Cossack folklore, and in the Cossack folklore there is this tradition of patterns. So I decided to make this a background. Everything emerges from this pattern, sort of as a story that is wound through the lines, the geometric lines. And
that come back everywhere, because one of the things maybe that would be interesting for the viewers to know as well, originally the prototype, like you said, actually did show a map of Siberia, but it didn't, it could have been anywhere in the world. I remember we talked about that because we wanted to have that feeling of progression, because you go deeper and deeper into Siberia. But I, like you say, I really like that you see those different types almost of landscape in different parts of Siberia, because it does give you the impression that you're going further and further into larger, territory. But definitely.
I also like that we don't have this map, because the map is a very concrete image of the land. And now we have this more a story and an image in your head. So you see these vast backgrounds,
I think, yeah, like you say, it's very evocative, right? You see it, and it could be like it makes you wonder, kind of, with your. I mean,
yeah.
when I saw it, for sure, like the first time, I remember really thinking, yes, I really have the feeling that I'm going into many different parts of Siberia. Oh, great. Um, did you have any particular challenges you felt when you were working on Stroganov?
Well, some, of course. One was fitting everything into the pattern. That
Yes.
was challenging, to say the least. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that definitely was. Well, you made it very challenging for yourself, but
Yes. 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 I think it was worth it.
yeah,
Funny thing about this pattern is that it was designed around the measurements of the third tile,
yes,
as small as it could be. But
hmm
in the end, we made it a little bit bigger,
yeah,
so then the third tile doesn't fit exactly into the pattern.
yeah. That is true. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's always because that's maybe also something interesting, for the viewers to know when we design these things. Usually, me, like as a creative director, I will start with indeed trying to find the right sizes for everything, and we have to measure based on what we already have. But when the illustrations are finished, sometimes you realize, oh, maybe we should, make this a little bit bigger and this a little bit smaller. It's always trying to fit everything and giving it like enough space on the
yeah.
board for you as an illustrator to be able to exactly add, the visual storytelling part of the game. So yes. So, all right. By the way, because I'm reading some of the comments that I'm seeing here on Twitch, it's actually really nice what you said because we have a user called Taron Collin that says, I love how much history, folklore, and traditions are actually put into this game and the theme. And they say, I also love the artwork and how much it looks like an aquarelle painting, and they can't wait to see it in real life. I think we all have it. Like, that's always the hardest when it's done because, I mean, we already see it kind of, at a real life size when we make the prototypes, but it's still very different when you get the final product when it's printed nicely. But yeah, we're going to make sure that it looks absolutely awesome. And also to answer a little question apparently directed at me, yes, I am Belgian. But yeah, because somebody was complimenting my English. Thank you very much. Okay, so another question that was asked as well. Did you actually have a chance to talk to the author, to Andreas, during art development, and what was his reaction?
No, I only heard from you that he was quite happy.
Yes, yeah, that I can confirm actually. Yeah, but I mean, hopefully, we all hope that by the end of the year, or for sure next year, we'll finally be able to have conventions again and meet each other, and that would be really interesting. I'm sure for you to meet Andreas as well.
Yeah,
But he loved it. Yeah, he very much loved it because it looked nothing like what I think he was expecting, and but he very much embraced the style. Okay, so let's maybe talk a little bit. Oh wait, I get a question in here. So there is a question. Did you guys have many different concepts for the artwork before you settled on this specific one?
Did we?
Not really, I would say, actually. I mean, because you have a clear style, but still, it's like what you said. I think we did start. You have a very painterly style, and that is something we very much loved because we wanted to, since the theme indeed was quite serious and very historical. That's one of the reasons that we really wanted to work with Maciej because exactly your style we thought very much fit the bill. But it was still interesting because we wanted to avoid, exactly having it set in winter, for instance. That's why I very much like that when you look at the board, you really feel that it's more summer and spring than it is a cold season. We did have like different iterations for the cover.
Yeah.
For sure, there were quite a few ideas. We had one that was set at more at dusk when you saw the yurt village and stuff. But the one we ended up choosing was, I think, the one we all loved the most because it very much gave that impression of like, yeah, exploring Siberia and really delving into that. This similar to, I want to say, the illustration that is on the board when you showed the first 3 seasons, and I think that's very evocative as well. And then another one, I get a little question. How did you start this game? Was there a prototype of the gameplay? or did it start with the theme? So actually, we would have to really ask that question to Andreas, because Andreas usually, that it was the case with Gugong as well, just gets inspired by stories he's read and heard. And I think with this one again, like same with Gugong, he was inspired by the story of that expansion into Siberia. But really, that is a question, to be perfectly blunt, that we would have to ask Andreas. But who knows? We might still have an interview with him as well, and share that. But that's a good question, because I'm not entirely sure where he did really start. Oh well, yeah. If oh, there you go. Well, yeah. Andreas is in the chat, I see, so he can actually answer. That would be really interesting to know. So we've talked quite a bit about Stroganov, obviously, but I wanted to also ask maybe another question, maybe a bit more personal, but about illustration still. What are some of the illustrators that inspire you and that you admire? It can be within the board gaming world, it can be outside of it, but yeah, definitely.
Well, I admire several of them. But,
there's a lot of talent out there,
yeah, there is. One that I know personally is Tomasz Jędruszek, that you may know from Game of Thrones.
Yes.
He illustrated a lot of stuff for this, for many games set in that universe. But also from other fields like Lee Xin Yin is, I believe he is a Chinese artist, and he's amazing in terms of brush control. I just love how little he uses brushes and yet achieves this amazing effects of realism. One more, I would say, is Evan Amundsen, who's amazing with construction, anatomy, and draftsmanship. I look up to him, and that's the main trio, I would say, for me.
Okay, very cool.
From the board game, I would say that very inspiring is art by Kyle Ferrin.
Yes.
Root. Very different.
Very indeed,
but, I think that he brings consistency to his approach, which is very nice to see.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's a game that has a very typical style, but I think it's very charming and really works. We get another little question here as well for Maciej. So for all the illustrations that you've made for the game, is there a personal favorite that you have? That's a tough one.
I really like the cover.
Yeah.
Cover is really dynamic, and there's a lot going on there. So that's certainly up there. But other than that, I think there are some landscapes that are not yet released that are my favorites.
Okay. Yeah, very curious. Actually, because I saw some of the new ones you sent in today that we haven't quite shared yet, but we will very soon. And yeah, the forest one with the moose is really beautiful. There's a lot though. There's I like the alternative that you make, for instance, for one of the mountains where you have the two little bunnies sitting on top of the rock. That is very charming. We actually get another question in that I think I already know a little bit the answer to, but somebody asked, in the Kickstarter you can have, and that is very true, your own customized and personalized character boards. So Miman asked, did you base the original characters, the 4 that are in the game right now, on familiar people?
Only one of them.
Yes.
One of them is based on my beloved partner.
There you go.
Nice house. Yes.
We won't tell which one, but maybe you can guess. And then, is there actually, because you kind of talked about Root a little bit, is there, or are there certain games, board games that you where as well, you very much like the style and you very much like the illustrations?
I think Inish is the one. I was just blown away by this game.
Okay.
It's amazing. It's like I believe there was a term used like heavy metal meets Irish mythology.
Yeah.
I dig that game. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's true. It's also one that has a very specific style. Like it's very recognizable, I think,
Yeah.
and very unique. Very good. So maybe there are some people actually watching that, are maybe interested or thinking of starting a career in illustration. Are there any tips that you could maybe give those people?
I think yes, as a quite inexperienced yet in the field, so not that far from this moment of entering the industry.
Fair enough.
I think that first of all you have to really like drawing and be good at it. There's not really too much of in terms of cheating your way into this business.
No.
It's if there's some level of mastery over your craft that you have to obtain, and there are many ways to do that. Many schools, many books. I would recommend How to Draw by Scott Robertson, and Imaginative Realism by Gurney. Gurney.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Anyway, so that's the first part of the advice, to get good at drawing and painting. And the other would be to actually start drawing some commissions for private clients.
Yes.
So like drawing, I don't know, portraits and maybe a character to D&D game or something like that.
Yeah.
There's a huge market for that, and you can get some very good experience with working for money, which is not the same as working for yourself.
Yeah.
And working with clients, so to the demand of the client.
No, that's very, very true. All right, thank you so much. I have another question that is very game brew related. We always ask people that. But what would you be your favorite? Because obviously we're, the game brewers. What's your favorite brew? Would it be coffee, tea, or beer?
Actually, I really like yerba mate.
Okay, I have not heard of that.
It's like a tea.
Okay.
But it's way stronger than coffee.
That's interesting.
Yeah. You have this little cup where you put a lot of leaves of that yerba mate, and then you pour hot water over that for the whole day.
Okay.
For this cup, and you just keep drinking, and it's really, really good. They drink that a lot in South America.
Okay.
It's very popular there.
Okay, I've got to look that up.
The current Pope is a fan of yerba mate.
Well, now you know. Approved by His Holy Highness.
Yes.
Okay, that's wonderful. Very cool. We have gotten some, because we're getting close to the end of the interview, but we got in some little questions still. Taron Colin asks, what is actually your favorite board game, if you have one? Because I know it's difficult sometimes to say one, but he says besides Stroganov, of course.
Depends. I would take two if possible.
Of course.
Because different groups of people, different experience with a game. And I tend to go for games that are best for that particular group.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's my approach. So my favorite for very competitive play would be Dune.
Okay, yes.
Dune, which was recently republished.
Yes.
Or remastered, I should say.
Yeah.
And it's great. Jesus Christ, it's really good. Very cutthroat, but very good. And the other sort of more cooperative is Detective, the modern crime.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
by Paul Sills. That's true. I've played it. It was very, very good. Yeah. I also like, because I thought first you were going to say Detective City of Angels, which is one I also very much like. But yeah, the modern one is great, and I think they've got a third one out now. So okay, very cool. There is another little question as well that popped in by Milman89. It says, I want to see more of your artwork. So they ask, what is next on the planning for board games you're working with?
So I have a project with Game Brewer. I don't know how much details I can share.
No, we can already, actually. That's totally fine. So you can tell a little bit about the game. But yeah, we're going to be making another game together quite soon, actually. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to be about something in the woods.
Yes, very much in the woods. No, it's. I can maybe tell a little bit more. So the game is going to be called Oak. It's actually by a new designer, Wim, who's actually one of our colleagues. So he designed a game that we've been working on for a while now, and yeah, we are going to actually start work on the box cover this month. So very soon indeed, and then develop the game throughout further. And if everything goes according to plan, we'll be launching it, late, like the third or fourth quarter of this year. So there's something definitely to look forward to. Yes, yeah, we're all very curious. Oak is a very interesting game. I can already say that we can already reveal the theme a little bit without giving away too much. But the game will be very much centered around druids. So yeah, that is we're going to delve into the mystical this time. All right, perfect. Is there anything else actually, since we're wrapping up the interview, that you'd like to mention that we maybe didn't ask?
Not really.
That's fair enough. Okay, well, wonderful. All right, well, Maciej, thank you so much for wanting to tune in with us this weekend. We will be sharing the interview as well on social media. We'll also post some links because Maciej also has some of his art pages that would be, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be interested in following. Maybe because you mentioned a few of the books that you recommended for illustrators, maybe we can also mention those names as well in there, so that would be fun. And but yeah, thank you to everyone that tuned in, for all the questions, for all the reactions that we've gotten. That was really, really awesome. And yeah, because we have, that I'm saying it right, about 9 days left before the end of the campaign, so we still have some things to unlock and discover. I think we're very, very close to unlocking the last social stretch goal, so that's really cool. All right, well, thank you, everyone. Have a great evening, and well, Maciej will obviously be in touch still very soon. Yeah. Have a good evening, everyone. Bye.
Good evening. Bye-bye.